Hi everyone, and welcome to FigTech Talks. I'm Stuart Campbell, and in this video we're going to look at my favorite PKM tool, Obsidian. Today we're going to cover the following topics. We're going to do an introduction to PKM, going to look at how to get started with Obsidian, how to organize your notes, how to take notes in Obsidian, and some of my favorite plugins. Firstly, we'll talk about what is PKM. PKM, or Personal Knowledge Management, is the practice of collecting, organizing, and using information effectively to enhance learning, creativity, and decision-making. Instead of passively consuming knowledge, PKM helps you actively engage with it by taking notes, making connections between ideas, and building a system that grows over time. Think of it as your own digital brain, where important insights, research, and experiences are stored in a way that makes them easy to retrieve and apply when needed. There are almost as many PKM tools as there are weather apps, but all the big players make different trade-offs. Do you want open versus closed source, OneNote versus Obsidian? Do you need to collaborate with your team, something like Notion? Do you want maximum portability, which is where something like Obsidian really shines? Do you want to write in rich text or in Markdown? Depending on these answers to those questions, you're going to lean towards a different tool. For me, Obsidian was the best choice because, firstly, the concept of vaults allows me to work the same way across contexts. As a contractor and a consultant, it's really important to me to keep client information separate. Having different vaults for different clients allows me to do this, but keep the same tools I do in all of my work. Secondly, everything is just a text file and can be synced using any of the cloud services. I don't have to pay for another cloud service just to get my notes to sync between devices, even though Obsidian does offer one. Thirdly, there's a massive community of plugin developers working to enhance the capability of the app. And lastly, it's available on all the platforms where I work. So let's get started by jumping in and installing Obsidian if you don't already have it. All right, so let's get started and we'll navigate to the Obsidian website, obsidian.md, and download the latest version for your platform. So for me, that's macOS. Let's click the download button. All right, the download's now complete, so let's open it up. And we'll drag it into our applications folder. Now I already have Obsidian installed, so I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm just going to come down to my dock and open it up. And here we can see the quick start menu. So we're just going to start out by creating a new vault with the purple button here. We're going to create a local vault, and we're just going to call the vault Obsidian 101. And we're just going to chuck it into my documents folder, and then we'll just create that. All right, so now we've got our new vault. So to create a new note, we can just hit the new note button here, and we can give our note a name, and we'll call it test note. And then we can start typing, this is a test note for Obsidian. We can also create new folders. So right next to the create note button, there's a new folder. So we can create a test folder. And then we can drag our test note inside it. We've also got a couple of different views up here. So the first is a search view. So we can search across all of our notes using the search view. So if I start typing in Obsidian as an example, we can see here that there are two places that it's linked. So one is in our test note, and the other is in the welcome note that Obsidian created automatically for us. The other view is the bookmarks view. So we can bookmark our favorite notes that we want to have easy access to. So if I come back to the files view and into my note, and I can, in my little expandable menu here, I can hit bookmark, and I can give it a name, and save it. And then now if I look in my bookmarks view, I can see my test bookmark there. So let's go back to files. Let's look at the welcome note, bookmarks, test bookmark. And there you go. So now you can see the bookmark view there. All right, so now that we've got Obsidian up and running, let's talk a little bit about organizing your vault. Everyone's brain will work differently, but this has been the best fit for me and how I like to think about my work. The method I use to organize my notes is a slight modification on what is known as the para method, which I first heard about from Tiago Forte. Check out the links in the notes below to find Tiago's blog post about it, and be sure to check out the rest of his blog and YouTube if the para method resonates with you. The para method has 4 key areas. 1, projects. These are pieces of work which have a defined end date, an actual project, a support issue, etc. Basically, a piece of work that starts and ends. The second area is areas. These are areas of responsibility or interest. These are things that you work on that don't have a defined end date or are topics of interest. So things like DevOps or solution architecture, things that you are interested in or working on that are open-ended. The third area is resources. These are reference notes on specific topics or tools that help you do your job better. And the last area is archive. This is a place for notes that aren't required in one of the other 3 folders to help keep what you actually need right now at your fingertips. I find this fits my brain because I'm often working both on specific projects and deliverables, but also across long-running topics that I contributed to or am interested in. The key for me is that I find it easy to remember my rules about what should go where. If you're spending too much time thinking about your system, you aren't actually doing any work. I recommend it to others because it's easy to adapt those rules to whatever works for them. Now, I tweak the para method in 2 ways. The first is with a daily note. This is a very common concept in the world of PKM, and it's built into the heart of Obsidian. A daily note is simply the idea that you have a single note for each day which captures as much as possible about your day. For me, it's the hub of my workflow, the place I always return to as I move through my day. I use a combination of the core plugin from Obsidian and some community plugins to make my note work for me and really turn it into the touchstone of my work. The idea here is simplicity and flexibility. A daily note can and should be whatever helps you focus on your work throughout the day. The other tweak I make to the para method is the inbox, which I think of in a very similar way to the inbox or the in tray from David Allen's Getting Things Done system. In order to save cognitive overhead of trying to know exactly where to file a note when I create it, I have a folder in my Vault where every new note is created by default. That way, I just create a new note, start typing, and know that my note won't get lost, which helps me stay in the flow of whatever else it is I'm working on. I then come along and clean it out periodically, either daily or weekly, by either filing the notes into their relevant folder or deleting them because I realize they're no longer relevant. Right, let's jump back into Obsidian and take a look at how I set up a new Vault using this structure. All right, here we are again back in Obsidian, and let's start by creating the folders for each of those 6 areas. So we'll create them in order. Let's start with the daily, projects, areas, resources, archive, and inbox. Now you'll notice that when I named the folders, I had the digits in front of them. This is just to help it sort in the consistent order, so I always know where they are in the list. And we can then follow up. We'll just start by taking everything we've written into our inbox and collapse it there. And there we've got our structure. So the first thing that I want to do is to make sure that any new notes that we create end up straight here in this inbox. So we can come into the Obsidian settings. We can go under Files and Links, and then under Folder, default location for new notes, and then we can say in the folder specified below, and we can pick our inbox. And so now when I create a new note, we can see that it's automatically created in our inbox. So we'll always know where to go when we create a new note. The next thing I wanted to demo quickly is setting up the Daily Notes plugin. So we'll start just by setting up the core plugin, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail about the community plugins I use a bit later in the video. So again, let's jump back into our core menu. Let's go under core plugins, and let's go down to Daily Notes. Let's hit the cog menu here. And we're going to start by setting up the date format. So this is the file name that it will give you. So there's a really cool trick that you can use here. So what I like to do is I have my notes in a year, month, and then the daily notes for each month in their own folder. So we can start off by saying year, / month, and then year, month, day. And so what you'll see now is on the left-hand side, you'll see your current syntax looks like, the year 2025, month June, and then today is the 30th of June. So that's the date there. And then we'll start by putting our new notes into our daily folder. And then we'll also want to create a template. We'll come back to that later. And then we want to open our daily note on startup. So what this will do is it will mean every time Obsidian starts, it will open up the note and to the daily note. And if it doesn't exist, it will create it. So we haven't got a daily note yet. So let's quit out of Obsidian here. And let's go back and let's open up Obsidian 101. Hopefully that will work. Doesn't look like it has. Let's open it up again. All right, so here we go. Now we've opened it up and we can see here it's created our daily note. It's blank because we don't have a template yet. And then under our daily folder, we can see the year, the month, and the daily note there. So now that we're organized, let's talk a little bit about taking notes in Obsidian. Obsidian uses Markdown to provide formatting and portability for notes. If you aren't familiar with it, Markdown is a plain text markup language designed to make writing for the web easier. I dare say it is the tool for writing portable technical documents and is used all over the internet. If you're interested in learning more about the syntax, head over to daringfireball.net, the link will be below, to read more about it. But for now, I'll just cover off the basics. So because Markdown is designed to basically convert to HTML originally, headers are a big part of it. So to create a header, you just put a little hashtag and we type out our header. Oops, helps if I'm typing well. And each hash changes the level of the header. So now I've got header 2, header 3, and so on all the way down. Now, under each header, you'll notice that they're collapsible, so I can collapse all of these different sections. Now, one of my favorite things to do in Obsidian and in Markdown is the use of a block quote. So often I'm working doing support troubleshooting or building an architecture, and I want to quote a requirement or quote a document that I want to do. So I can just type out some text here, and then using my Obsidian command palette, which will be Control P or Command P, depending on your operating system of choice, I can just say block quote, and I can toggle the block quote there. And so now I've got a block quote, and that's there. The other really powerful thing that I use all the time is code blocks. So if I do 3 block backticks there, and then and so you can see there that there's a full JSON object, and it's formatted nicely as well. So it's pretty easy to read code, or at least extracts of code. It does tend to fall down if you're pasting a lot of code in there. But again, a lot of what I'm doing is referencing specifications or creating little snippets. So a code block works really well for me. Of course, if you're taking less technical notes, what you'll want is, basic text formatting stuff. So bold is very easy and built in with shortcuts in Obsidian. So we can do our bold text, and what you'll see here is it creates the bold text with the 2 asterisks around it. And then for italics, we can do Control I or Command I, and you can see that's created with 1 asterisk around it. Linking is at the heart of a PKM. It allows you to join thoughts and ideas you've previously had to make new ones and make new connections between knowledge. It's easy to see which notes are related using backlinks and the awesome Obsidian graph view. So let's take a look at that now. So say I wanted to link my daily note, which we're working on here, to our welcome note from Obsidian. So what I would do is I can open the double brackets, and what you'll see is instantly it's produced a list of all of the notes in my vault. Now, obviously, if you've got a lot of notes in your vault, that's not going to be that helpful. But when I start typing, we can see that it's automatically searching for me. And then I've got my link here by just auto-completing it with enter. So now I can click on the link, and it will take me back to the welcome note. Now that's great because it's saying, okay, so on my daily note, I was working on my welcome note. But what if I wanted to know which notes welcome note was connected to? Well, this is the idea of backlinks. So if I open up my more options menu, I can see backlinks in the document, and I can see here, the linked mentions are my daily note here on the 25th of the 6:30. So if I can click back there, and then straight away, I'm back to my graph view, back to my daily note view. Now, the other way to see that is in the really, really cool graph view. So if I come over to this tab here and we drag it around a little bit, and so now we can see that the welcome note is here, and it's got two links, to create a link and to the daily note. Now, if I go and look at my welcome note, you'll see here that the creator link is grayed out. So what that means is that whilst there's a link here, the note doesn't exist yet in your vault. So if you come across a topic that you are interested in or you find interesting, but you don't have time right now to dive in and do some research, you can create the link using the double brackets and then just leave it there. And then later, when you create a new note, and let's do that now, it's called create a link. And if we look at the backlinks in this document, you'll see that even though I haven't done anything in the welcome note, just the process of creating that note with the link has made it and connected it to the welcome note. Now, I can also, if I delete this one quickly, and we come back to the welcome note, if I just click on this link, even though it doesn't exist, what it will do is it will go ahead and create that note with the file name of whatever you call the link, and then you can start typing. And so this is the real power of Obsidian and any PKM. The ability to link vaults and link notes is so powerful and makes it so easy to see what knowledge is related to other knowledge and allows you to build connections between them. Now let's talk about plugins. Plugins are the superpower of Obsidian. There are thousands of plugins available for almost every sort of workflow and integration you can imagine. It's important to be careful about which plugins you install as you're giving them access to all of your notes, which likely contain sensitive data. The Obsidian team does review the initial version of a plugin, but after that you should be aware of the source for the plugins you use and trust most often. Usually a sensible approach with a little bit of research will go a long way, just like choosing a library to include in a web development project. But if you aren't sure, take a look at the awesome Obsidian community plugin pages and ask around. There are 3 core plugins I'd like to highlight today. The first is Daily Notes, which we covered a little bit earlier, but I'll dive back into in combination with Templates, which is a great example of where there's a simple core plugin and a much more advanced community plugin to look at. And third, the Canvas, which is an amazing way to visualize a workflow or a topic. And I use one every day to quickly review the status of the projects I'm working on. I'm also going to demo some of my favorite community plugins, all of which play a critical part in my workflow in Obsidian. All right, here we are back in Obsidian. So the first thing we want to do is we want to turn on the mode that lets us install community plugins. So let's come down to our cog menu, and under the community plugins page, we're going to hit the turn on. So you can see here, the warning I was talking about from Obsidian, talking about how to look out for potentially dodgy plugins. So we're going to turn them on, and then we're going to start installing. So I'm just going to pick a few of my favorites here. So we're going to start with Advanced Tables. We're going to install that. Data View is another one of my favorites. We're going to install that. Excalidraw is another of my favorites. Quick add, and Templator. So these 5 plugins are some of my favorites, and they're really at the core of what I do in Obsidian. So let's now go back out of that and back out of here. And now we can see we're back on our community plugins page, and we're just going to turn all of these on. And we're going to start by setting up the quick add one. So if we go into the gear menu for quick add, we can see a few settings here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a folder path. So if we go back here and under resources, we're going to create a couple of folders. We're going to say Obsidian, and we're going to create a new folder called templates. Now remember, resources is about things that help you do your job every day. So it's perfect for something like templates. Now let's jump back into the community menu and let's pick our folder. So if we start typing templates here, we should see it, and there it is, resources Obsidian templates. So that's our template folder path, and we're going to create a choice here. And we're going to call it demo. And then we're going to, again, go into the gear menu and set it up. So now we need to create a template for our demo. Now what I'm going to do is show you some of the cool power of the templater plugin as well here. So in our templates folder, we're going to create a new note, drag that in here. We're going to call it demo template. And I'm going to paste in some really complicated looking code, but it's actually not that complicated. So this is the power of the templater plugin. So templater will allow you to create templates. So what I've got here is, even using some inline JavaScript, we're going to create some links between our daily notes. So we've got the title, our header is today's day and date. And then we've got a little section here, which is going to show links, back and forward links between yesterday's date and tomorrow's date. So we've got our little template here. Let's go back to quick add. Let's go back to the demo and let's pick our template. So there it is there, demo template. And we're going to set the file name format. That's fine. We're going to say create in the folder. Let's just always put this in the inbox. That's fine. And then we can say we want to open the created file and we want to split it vertically and focus it. So now, okay, so we're back here on our daily note. So what we can do, we can bring up our command palette with Control P, and we can run quick add, and we can pick our demo option from the list. Now, in order for this to work, I have to give it a date as its name, and I'll show you why that's the case in a sec. So then we can create that. And what we'll see here is we've created a new note with the file name that we gave it, and that template that we had set up. So again, under the demo template here, all of this JavaScript has been converted to a little back and forward menu. So I actually use that template at the top of my daily note to easily be able to link between yesterday's date and tomorrow's note if I need to. If I need to make a reminder for myself or something that I want to do tomorrow, or if I want to look back at what I did yesterday, I've got a quick way to jump back and forward between them. So we'll stick in this note and we'll start with our next plugin demo, which is advanced tables. So if you've worked with Markdown previously, you'll know that building tables is quite painful, and just in general, building tables in HTML is quite painful. And advanced tables helps us work around that and builds them up really quickly. So what we're going to do, we're going to insert a table. And we can see here now we've got a little table. And then we've got some little options here. So we've got columns after and rows down. And we've got the ability to sort the columns and do a bunch of other stuff, which is just really, really powerful from a table management perspective. So if you need to build a little table, build a requirements traceability matrix, something like that, you can use these advanced tables plugin to build that out quickly in Obsidian. Now, my next favorite plugin is the Excalidraw plugin. So I'm a solution architect by training, so I like to draw pictures. So what we can do is again bring up our command palette and start typing Excalidraw. And then what I usually like to do is we'll create a new drawing in a new tab, but we'll embed it into the active document. So what that will do, so we've got our drawing here, and we can draw some pretty boxes, and we can draw some lines between those boxes because this is what architects like to do. Let's just have another little box down here. And now if we close that out, and what you'll see here is in our note, we can see that picture is embedded in line. So now that note contains that picture. So as we're writing, as we're thinking, we can be drawing as well to, to bring that visual element to our notes. Now, the last thing I want to show you in terms of plugins is Data View. Now, this plugin is unbelievable. It really is amazing. And so what Data View allows you to do is it allows you to build tables and sections of your notes that reference other notes. So to create a Data View, we're just going to create a little code block here, and we'll give it the tag Data View. And we'll start off by listing all of the notes in our vault. So we've got a list here, and there you go. See, it's created the list of all of the notes we've got in our vault. Now, obviously, that's not necessarily particularly useful, so we can also limit it. And let's say we just want to see all of our daily notes. And there we go, we've got all of our daily notes. What if we wanted a list of all of our templates? We would change this to the and there we've got a list of all of our templates. So Data View is this basically SQL-like query language that lets you search across your entire vault and pull through information into either central notes like a daily note, or if you're working on a particular project, you can also track your to-dos and bring all of those to-dos into a list, and it's really fantastic. And if you'd like to see a little bit more information on that, let me know in the comments below, and maybe I'll do a video specifically on Data View and the ways that I use it in my vault. And that's all we've got time for today. If you have any other questions or things you'd like to learn about Obsidian, please leave a comment below. If you liked this video and want to see more, do the old like and subscribe with the bell below. Thanks for watching. I'm Stuart Campbell, and I'll see you again next time.